Okay, cool. Hopefully, third time is a charm. I'm still trying to get used to all this stuff. Anytime I touch this webcam, it freaks out. But just wanted to go ahead and talk about a couple of things that are pretty controversial that I think honestly need to be discussed when I have a lot of people saying certain things that are about the government, Jordan Peterson, and Romans 13, as the title of the video says. Now, the first thing I want to discuss and have it be very controversial when talking about what the government is the government, even the most corrupt ones, having a government is useful, is actually a good thing. That anarchy is the antithesis of anything that is good. The anarchy is actually even worse than communism. Now, let me explain what do I mean by that. Communism obviously is probably the worst form of government that any nation can have. It's just barbarous, it's death, it's chaos, it's everything that's an antithesis to that which is good and just. But even the USSR, at its height of its most brutal brutality, was still better than that of having a vacuum of no government at all. Because the issue when you have anarchy is the fact that when you have communism, and how horrible and barbarous it is, anarchy is worse because you have the same problems tenfold. Because now you have a bunch of tribes fighting each other, because humans will become tribalistic, will become connected to one another, and will become everything that's bad with one another to gain power and to gain control. So when there's a vacuum where there's no government, no anything, guess what? People are going to go out there and start fighting and start killing each other for either control, for resources, or for all of the above. That's why anarchy is actually a bad thing. As Joseph de Maestro, the Catholic philosopher writer, said, any form of government is still better than none. And for people saying, well, government should be there only to be a night watchman state. Well, I'm sorry, but I think government can have a bigger role than that. Take, for example, that of snake oil salesmen. A lot of people complain about food, quality of it, quality of products, quality of items. Well, what's the one restraining force against it? You can say, well, it's a free market. People will allow to choose to pick and say, no, we're not going to have this product. Yes, we'll have this product. Well, the big issue with that is if you tell people, hey, go ahead and take this product or don't take this product, and they take it and they get hurt, you're going to have a lot of issues going ahead with you because of snake oil salesmen. So, what is the big factor that can go out there and prevent that? It's pretty simply it's government oversight. And I know people hate when you say that, but it's true. If you put in there precautions and you have the FDA, Food Drug Administration, or some sort of barriers to entry as well as quality assurance, people can't go out there and have the poisons in the food as much anymore. Now, obviously, there's going to be a level of that because government is not run by perfect people, nor will the government be perfect. So I think people just need to understand this a government is still better than nothing. We have a very bad government right now, but going against the government is just going to end up having you be destroyed. So, what do I mean by that with Jordan Peterson? What exactly is the connection? Though I think Jordan Peterson has some interesting things to say, I wish he would follow his wife and become Catholic. There also is the big issue with him that, well, everything's a symbol and sometimes he doesn't stand up when he needs to speak, and sometimes he takes things for symbolism rather than taking them for the actual story that there are. And this is kind of the Carl Jung effect that has happened to him that people take that which is a symbol and make it to be that's what exactly what it is rather than having it be and actually something that's good or actually what it realistically is. Okay, clean your room. Something that if you told people in the 1960s, they would laugh at you and say, clearly, what are you talking about? But something that if you jump forward to the 2010s and 2020s is seen as this big revolutionary step and something that is awe-inspiring and shaking towards people. The reason why that is because people have been told for so long that government is simply there to give you what you want. Government is there to serve you. The government is there to serve liberalism rather than government is there to serve order, to protect people. Yes, it can ensure some rights. That's not exactly what I'm against. But government is not just there to only ensure your rights. It's to ensure your border, it's to ensure security, it's to ensure people have an ability to live rather than going out there and constantly defending only people's individual rights. which I'm sorry, but it can be very arbitrary which ones you want to pick and choose and which ones that can come into conflict with one another. So, as I said, Jordan Peterson, in and of himself, isn't necessarily an evil person, though I would criticize some of the more lax takes that he would have, as well as some of the other nonsensical stuff that he would have going on. Um, but again, like I said, I think government is not there just to go out there and to serve you entirely in and of itself. Government can be there to serve the community, yes, without a doubt. But if you only want your government to go out there and to be something that's, well, we're going to go out there and have the government say and do the things that we want it to do, rather than have it be there to enforce law, enforce order, as well as enforce Food and Drug Administrations, which is kind of a big thing for me because if you have an unhealthy population, you have an unhealthy people, you're going to have a society that does not last long. If everybody's fat, weak, and stupid, you're going to get conquered really quick. I don't care who you are, where you are. It's just a matter of time. And that's not what I want for the United States. Okay. So I kind of want to talk about Romans 13, which is seen as a very controversial Bible passage, but I don't think it is as much as people might think. So I want to go ahead and read it real quick and just using a King James Bible just to make things kind of, I don't know. That's just what I have right here up top. All right, and the subtext of this Bible passage is Romans 13, submit to government. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except for that from which God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister for good. But if you do evil, be afraid. For he who does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, and avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore, you must be subject, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this is also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers, attending continuously to this very thing. Render therefore to all their due taxes, for whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Now, if you grew up in America, that Bible passage seems, and I hate to put it this way, but it's true, it seems blasphemous for a lot of people. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's telling you to pay your taxes, to be obedient to government. Now, the 1930s, the German government, everybody knows which one that one was, used that Bible verse against Christians in order for them to be totally obedient to the Nazi regime. Now, to be very honest with people, it may seem, if you kind of take that out of context, you just have to be obedient to the government 100% at all times. But the narrowest truths are the most specific ones. So, yes, you do need to be at least okay with the government that you have. If you've ever seen the movie Paul, in that movie, Paul, the Apostle Paul, no, I'm sorry, the leaders of the church at that time in Rome who were hiding away, trying to stay away from the Romans, even though they were being massively persecuted, killed on the spot, fed to lions, everything. They had a chance to go and try to fight back against the Roman government. And even the Roman government, which Paul wrote about during that time, in which he was being persecuted probably around the same time, if not just about to be, and if not that he probably knew he was going to be, as well as other Christians, even he said, be obedient to your government. Because what happens when you're not, and this is what the movie Paul was talking about, when you're not obedient to a level of your government, they're going to come and they're going to kill you. And yes, can be a bad thing. It can be a really bad thing for a lot of people. But that's just the reality of the situation. I'm sorry, but during 70 AD, during the siege of Jerusalem, the reason why the Romans just flat out said, we've had enough of Jerusalem, and they went and destroyed the second temple, well, took over and destroyed Israel at the time, and really just tore it to the ground, was because they were tired of the revolts that was constantly happening with the Jewish people at that time. They were tired of it, so they went and attacked them. And it ended up being really bad. Now, Christians were being persecuted at that same time too, obviously, but the reason why it wasn't a full-on we're going to throw everything we have at you and just going to absolutely destroy you, rather than just being the level of persecution that if we see you, we're going to get you type of deal, is because Christians were being more peaceful at the time. They were not willing to fight back against the government. They were willing to accept their fate. Now, that can be very difficult for people because a lot of people in modern day take their life as that's it. If you give your life, a lot of people think that's it when it's not. Your reality and your sense of being is from this time until forever going to be, to a sense, immortal. So I'm not saying this flesh is going to be, though obviously the Bible says you're going to have a resurrection, but your soul is immortal in a sense. So this life, though it's important, it's not the be all end all. And when you go against the government, same thing with if you don't pay taxes. This is telling you to pay taxes. We have a problem right now in America when we're paying communist levels of taxation. I mean, we're pretty much there, and we're not keep on going. We're going to definitely match them. But even then, while we could peacefully say, hey, this is not cool, we're going to protest peacefully against this, we're going to say that this is not right, you still need to pay your taxes at the end of the day. And if you say, well, why? Because men with guns will come to your house and take you away and put you in a little cage if you don't. Even Jesus said, give unto Caesar, which is Caesar's. Meaning that God's telling you, pay your taxes. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal to pay those taxes. Though it can be, the way we are here in the United States right now, it can be a level of backbreaking where it's like, gosh, dang, I'm really getting taxed this much. And while, like I said, you can peacefully resist that, turn the other cheek, carry another mile, do what is right in order to say, hey, this is not cool to a level. That is 100% viable, and you should be allowed to do that. But in the same breath, if you're going to go out there and say, I'm just not going to pay my taxes. Well, look what happened to Wesley Snipes. He went to jail. And if you try to resist that even, you're going to have worse things happen to you. So give unto Caesar, which is Caesar's. This Babylonian money that we have right now isn't really worth as much anyways. And for a lot of people who say, well, we need to fight back against the government, we need to take a violent stance, you're just going to end up being killed. And for a lot of people, that's what's going to happen. So I do not suggest that at all. In fact, I am against that. Do not violently trying to fight back against the police, the government, any of this stuff. You will end up being killed. Now, can you truly peacefully protest and say, hey, some of these things are not cool, write to your senators, write to maybe the police chief and say, hey, look, this is the problems I'm having. Can we please discuss this? Can we please talk about this? Can we go to a city hall? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But do not violently protest. Do not violently react to any of these things because it's going to end up terrible for you. But let's take this, for example, too. America has this big problem where we believe in revolution, we believe in revolting against the government. But if you revolt against the United States government, you're going to end up being destroyed. But even if, truly, in Minecraft, if you are successful, what then? Some people say, well, you go back to the Constitution and do all that stuff. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. Many times dictators are that of 20th century men who won the game of politics, who were able to take over the government, able to rule with the iron fist. So a lot of times when you overthrow institutions, you end up getting worse ones because of that. So that's kind of the punishment that God puts upon us. And everybody needs to remember this. Every citizen, every government, every people get the government that they deserve. So if you have an immoral government, which we see in the United States, I'm sorry, but it's not every single person in the United States that's 100% true, but we do have a lack of morality happening with our country, and it's been declining more and more, even from when I was a little boy. So even in the short time that I've been alive, it's been declining rapidly, and it's only going to keep going down and down and down. I mean, civility has just gone away completely. So we honestly deserve Joe Biden. We deserve a lot of the punishments that we're receiving. We deserve to be spanked, frankly. And it's not good. It's not something that I really like and enjoy, obviously. But it's something that, I've not been perfect too, so I can't throw stones from my castle as well. But I also think as well, if you want to go out there and fight against the government, I mean, it's just going to end up terrible for you. And this is something that it's difficult for people to finally give up, that the United States government and government in general it's not always there to just destroy you, and it's not 100% against you always. Take, for example, the Biden administration. There's a lot of problems going on with it. I will not deny it. But even then, if you want to have a civilized discussion with some of the institutions within it, you might be able to. Versus if you just try to violently overthrow it, you're going to end up being killed, and they're really going to look at you as something that needs to be taken care of, something that needs to be evaporated. So it's not going to be good. Don't do it. It's not smart. And honestly, too, even the way people view the United States government, too, that it's there to defend your rights. Well, to an extent, I said it can. And if you go to court, you can have a lawyer, a judge, and other people be there to help and defend you, even if you're quote unquote wrong. I know it's not always a part of government, but take hospitals, for example. Um, they take a Hippocratic oath that if you're a mass murderer, anybody, and you need a medical emergency, they're going to help you. I was watching Patriots Day, and the young kids who went out, well, not kids, but the young men who went out there and committed that terrorist act, the one who survived, they had to give him, well, both of them, the one who died, they tried to give medical emergency to, try to save his life. And the one that survived, they also give him medical treatment as well. So even if you're a hardened criminal, even if you've done everything that's wrong, there's certain level of barriers and as well as protections that people are given. So again, pay your taxes. Don't fight back against your government. You can peacefully resist certain things. Now, I don't even, again, pay taxes. Do not pay your taxes because it's going to end up detrimental for you and for your family. And you're thrown in a little cage, or worse is going to happen to you. So understand that, and understand that your government is not always there to absolutely destroy you. And for anybody who's going to say, I am well aware of much of the conspiracy theories, I don't even disagree with a lot of them, but you have to understand as well, yes, that has happened, but there's also been instances where government has been very much held accountable, and you can use government to protect yourself. Now, again, we are in desperate need of a peaceful reform, but that's about it. So I guess that's all I really have to say right now. This is kind of a shorter live stream. I think I'll start maybe designing these a little better because I'm just kind of rambling. But in all seriousness, do not want to fight back against your government. You can peacefully resist. You can peacefully talk about things. But understand your government is also there to protect you and to protect people within the United States as well. So any form of government is better than no form of government. Oh, and I wanted to end on this final story, though, too. Take, for example, the revolution that happened during the French Revolution, as well as the USSR. The French Revolution, people despised their king. I think a lot of it, to a level, wrongfully so. I think it was a lot of people who just wanted to overthrow the government and try to create their own. But they wanted to do that, and what ended up happening? You had the Reign of Terror, where you had total chaos happening in France. France was beaten, destroyed, and it took Napoleon having to win the game of politics before France could have any amount of peace, at least for a time, before the Napoleonic Wars. Take maybe for more and a bigger example, that of the USSR. In the USSR, what happened to Russia during the end of World War I? They suffered massive casualties. Tsar Nicholas II was seen as a horrible king, and the people revolted against him. Now, they believed that they could do something better than Tsar Nicholas II. And what happened? Tsar Nicholas II was killed. They put in, at first it wasn't Lenin who took over, but eventually the USSR and the Bolsheviks won the game of politics, took over Russia, and Russia suffered tremendously for it. 80 years of communism? Ridiculous. Just levels of insanity and pain that they had to go through. And excuse me, but a lot of that was suffering because they want to overthrow the government. Don't do it, because even if you believe you're going to be successful, you're going to have probably a worse form than when you had before. So don't do it. And more than likely, 99% chance you're not going to be successful, and you're going to end up destroying and throwing away your life. And it's like, why? Why'd you throw away your life? Well, they're doing X, Y, and Z. It's like, sure, but you can still walk outside and go to the grocery store right now. Right now. So I think it's totally unnecessary. It's totally barbaric, and it's totally going to get yourself hurt and killed. So don't do it. Don't be stupid. Don't throw away your life. Be smart. work more in peace, be a peacemaker, and don't be stupid. But understand as well, if you really have government that actually works and you have a moral and just society, you can have an actual government that does a lot of cool and good things for you. You know, Singapore gets a bad rap, but Singapore goes out there and protects people. It's very harsh and strict, but the government and the society is very, very orderly. It is total, well, not total order, but a high level of order, which is why it's been a successful multicultural nation. It's something that I look at and go, wow, you know, if the United States is going to go down this multicultural path, which one way or another, it's just what's going to end up happening, you might as well have something peaceful like that rather than San Francisco, New York, and the chaos that we have right now. But even in New York and San Francisco and these places, it's a reflection of a lot of people who gave up a long time ago. And it just didn't start in 2000. In 1980s, 1970s, all those places, they became degenerate. And guess what? They were taken over by degenerates, by bigger degenerates. So don't just look and say, well, it's the government's fault, it's X, Y, and Z. No, that's not what ends up happening. So in conclusion, be obedient to your government to an extent. Yes, you're gonna have to be. Not saying you need to accept every single thing that they say or do, or you can't criticize them, but do not want to go out there and be stupid and end up throwing away your life. And I keep saying that because I keep seeing a lot of people that the tree of liberty needs to be fed by the blood of tyrants and all this stuff. It's like, dude, no, you're just going to end up destroying yourself. I understand Thomas Jefferson said that, but don't think that way and don't act that way. You're going to end up destroying your life. Don't destroy your life. Be obedient, pay your taxes, and be more moral. And I promise you, throughout time, if people start doing that more en masse and start going away from degeneracy, you will have a more just government. You will have all these great things that happen to you. So in conclusion, be smart. And I think this is something that people from the past really have taught us and that we need to learn. It's be obedient to people who are in control and in power. Now, again, that doesn't mean, you know, they tell you to jump how high. That's not what you need to do. But you do need to go, these are the rules. I need to play by them. So that's all you guys really need to do. And hopefully this isn't too rambly. We'll see how this kind of goes with this live stream. But just wanted to sit there and talk. So thanks everybody for watching. I have 0 people watching right now, but hopefully people will get some views afterwards. So thank you guys and have a great rest of your day.